While it's definitely winter here in southern New England, it's nothing compared to what some of the rest of you are putting up with in the US. So it's a good time to stay inside with a tasty beverage close to hand while we take a look at 8 Hoyas and a 1, 2, and 3 year update. And a thank you to everybody who participated in the conversation from last week's question. That was really interesting, and there's some very wise people out there. There was also some confusion about the difference between a resolution and an intention. A resolution is a firm commitment, something you get to make yourself feel guilty about if you don't follow through on. An intention is like, there's always next year, and you don't get to make yourself feel guilty. So the kids are all lined up as usual. Let's get this underway with the 3 year updates. And the first one up is my Hoya Rosita. Now, Hoya Rosita is a hybrid, so it doesn't grow anywhere in nature, and it's a cross between hoyaheads and hoyaheads. And I have both hoyaheads and hoyaheads. So, yeah, you can see it in this. This was never on my wish list. It ended up, I think, as an add-on. You know, when you find a Hoya that you want, and since you're going to pay for shipping anyway, and it costs the same to ship 2 plants, you look through and see what else they've got. And I had seen Hoya Rosita, and I thought, okay, that's a good one. That's interesting. You would think after 3 years it would be much more massive, and there's a reason that it's not. But it's a very, very pretty Hoya. It's got those beautiful margins, the way that hoyahead does. And it picks up some nice sun stressing. And on this plant, I actually like the sun stressing. And this one's grown really well for me. But the time has come to move it out of, it's currently in a net pot with a cover pot, and it's doing okay, but for the size of the plant that it now is, that net pot doesn't hold enough moisture. So we're going to up pot it. Now that and if you were asking, yes, I got some more pots in, they arrived today. We're gonna move this one to a larger pot, self-watering, and I think it's going to make this plant happier. Right now it's kind of dry because it's, even with the humidifier running, I've got the door open now, but it's only like 43% in here. So it's not enough to maintain the moisture in the growing medium that this plant likes. I know this is usually done as a trailing plant, and I think Rosita would really love to be a trailing plant, but I don't have places to hang it. So, the wall space in the plant room is kind of like concealed by shelves. So I think we're going to give Rosita a new pot. I know we're going to give Rosita a new pot and give it an optimistic trellis. It lives back down here, so as optimistic a trellis as will fit on that shelf. It has bloomed for me, and sadly I didn't take pictures of the blooms, but I've got peduncles in a number of places, and this is everybody's favorite. Well, sunrise is everybody's favorite, but this is close second. If you don't have one, it's a good choice. It's done really well for me. It would look really good hanging, but I think it's going to make an interesting plant on a trellis because I've got enough to really kind of fill it in. So yeah, this has been really cool. This has been here for 3 years. It came from plant demand on Etsy, and this is Hoya Rosita. And the next monster up is my Hoya linearis. Now, Hoya linearis is native to Assam, south central China, the East Himalayas, Laos, Myanmar, Nepal, and Vietnam. And it was first published in 1825 in the Contributions to the Botany of India by Nathaniel Wallach. And there are some notes I picked up that said in Sikkim it grows in hot valleys at 4,000 to 6,000 feet. And the note on the herbarium sheet says Reg Himal, which I'm assuming means region of the Himalayas or Himalaya region, one of the two. Like everybody else, I wanted one of these the first time I saw it, and they were so expensive. And there's no reason for them to be expensive because they grow really well. This little monster, I have to be careful of it, is now, well, it keeps on going. It's now almost 6 feet long because I'm just under 6 foot tall. And I have to figure out what 6 feet is in metric. I'll ask Google during the break. So it goes from almost the top of my head clear down to the floor. It's a really, really beautiful plant. I think it's just very cool. It bloomed for me for the first time this year. I think I've got some pictures, so I'll pop them up over here. It's putting out new growth here. There's new growth on the end of the vines. It's just done very well for me. What has really helped, I had it, and I think I have a picture of it, growing in one of those small 4-inch net pots in bark and sphagnum. And while it can be susceptible to root rot, that mix was not holding enough moisture for the plant of this size. So I moved it into a self-watering pot, a hanging self-watering pot. So, there's a place on the wall for it, which is why there's no room for anything else. With cocoa husk chunks, fine bark, pumice, and some sphagnum moss. And it seems to like that. That mix pulls up a lot of moisture, so I need to keep filling this up fairly frequently. But if you've got a more dense mix or there's more stuff like, I don't know if I'd do cocoa coir with this. Cocoa coir in a mix like that all tends to settle and fall out the bottom, so that kind of doesn't work for me in this. But if there was something like more sphagnum or something that hold more water, I might water it less frequently. But I need to top this off every week. And if the furnace is running a lot, then I need to give it a little taste midweek. But yeah, this is an iconic Hoya. It's just beautiful. The leaves are very pubescent. Let me see if I can. I'm trying very hard not to mangle or damage or hurt this plant in any way, shape, or form. Let's see if it'll focus. There we go. The leaves are pubescent, and I'll put some close-ups. They are very cool, very pretty. Yeah, this is one that you want. But it's very easy to propagate, so you shouldn't pay a lot of money for it. Wait till you find a respectable price. This has been very cool. This one, I did not note down where this came from, and I know I looked it up for you. Yeah, I'll put in a little addendum after this. So yeah, this is Hoya linearis. And here's the promised addendum. I'm just under 6 feet tall, and that is approximately 1.829 meters or 182 centimeters. So yeah, that's from the top of that plant to the floor pretty much. That's really cool. And that plant came from Briggs Nursery in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. Now on to the 2-year Hoyas. The first one up is Hoya merrillii. Now, Hoya merrillii is native to the Philippines and was first collected on Mindoro Island at a low altitude. It was collected by E.D. Merrill, and they named it after him. And it was first published in 1904 in Fragmenta Florae Philippinae by our friend Friedrich Richard Rudolf Schlechter. And I picked this one up because I saw pictures of the leaves, and they are very, very pretty. They even get a little bit of sun stress, which I'm kind of okay with. But yeah, I got this plant. It was a tiny little, like 1-node, 2-leaf cutting, and potted it up. And I probably had it in bark and sag in a net pot, and it started growing. I mean, it just like grew from the very beginning. And then in maybe 3 or 4 months, it bloomed. I was stunned. I hadn't even been paying attention to looking for peduncles or expecting it to bloom. And as you can see from over here, the blooms are really, really pretty. This has just done so well for me. I mean, wow. It's grown very, very well. It's no trouble. It's no hassle. There have been no temper tantrums. And it blooms regularly. I've got it in self-watering, of course, and it could probably stand to be up-potted, but I don't know that I'm willing to take that on just yet. Soon, but not just yet. This has just been so much fun. The blooms, the growth, the leaves, everything about it has been very, very cool. This is, I say that, it almost has no meaning anymore. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. But there's a great story with this one about how well it's done and how well it continues to do. And yeah, no arguments about this one. This one came from TQ Hoyas on Etsy, and this is Hoya merrillii. Next up, celebrating its 2-year anniversary here, is Hoya, and I'm under the impression that it's a finlaysonii now, but I could be wrong about that. But I'm going to say Hoya finlaysonii chicken farm. Now, it was first collected in 1997 in Malaysia, and it was growing in Tenom in province of Sabah near a chicken coop. And that's why it was named a chicken farm. It was collected by Eva Karin Weiberg. Now, when I first saw the name of this, I thought, who's just playing being stupid? And what kind of a name is chicken farm? But I didn't know the story, so I was being stupid. And I was not impressed. I didn't think much about it. And then I saw one on Wild Fern, on her program. This goes back a couple of years now. And it was beautiful. And I had one of my moments, I need one of those. And began the search, began the hunt. This has done so well for me. This one, perhaps I was lucky and just got a really good plant to start with. This one grew from the get-go. He's had a couple tough moments, a couple fits and starts, but that wouldn't deter me from recommending this plant. It has done very, very well. The leaves are gorgeous. I showed you this one, but it's worth looking at again. It's got all those wonderful finlaysonii qualities. And it blooms, he said as he banged the plant into the lights. It's just very, very neat. It has been no hassle, no trouble. I think I've got pictures of the blooms for you over here. They look like finlaysonii blooms if you're familiar with them. If you're looking for a finlaysonii to try out, I hardly recommend Chicken Farm. It shouldn't be expensive because it seems to propagate fairly well and grow fairly well. But yeah, this one's been very cool. This is one of my favorites. You know, they're all my favorites. This one came from TQ Hoyas on Etsy, and this is Hoya finlaysonii Chicken Farm. And the next 2-year anniversary plant is one I like to think of as a success story. It's the second time I've tried it. The first time, I produced compost. But the second time I paid a little bit more attention and did things right. And this is my Hoya endauensis. Now, Hoya endauensis is native to peninsular Malaysia and the banks of the Ulu Endau River in Johor, Malaysia. And I'm told that Ulu Endau means head of the mountain in Malay. This was first collected in 1985 and published in 1989 in Malayan Nature Journal by Ruth Q. And this plant is just, I really like endauensis. Let's see if I can get it to. It's got beautiful little undulate-edged leaves. And there we go. And I'll put some close-ups on the side of them. And this started off as a tiny little cutting, and it has turned into this beautiful, beautiful plant. I mean, that's very, very cool. That's very pretty. Once I got it settled, it's just done very, very well. It's a small-leafed Hoya. The leaves are, they're almost, I have like my degrees, firm, then there's rigid. These are almost rigid. I love the little ruffled edges. Once this got settled, and once I figured out the light, it just took off. It loves being in, it's got a fairly small root structure for the size of the plant. It's in pond and self-watering, and it is not under the grow light, it is off to the side. So it gets a gentler bit of light, and it seems to be appreciating that. I really like this Hoya. And after the crash and burn I had with the first one, to have one doing this well for me is really nice. It'd be even nicer if it would focus, but that's what close-ups are for. This has been very cool. I am very happy with this one. I don't know if I mentioned it hasn't bloomed yet, but I am hopeful with all this growth that we'll have blooms at some point. This has been a really, really good grower for me. No complaints, no issues, no pest problems, really. It has been treated for mites. Everybody got treated for mites. So I think we've addressed that problem pretty well. This one came from Sproutique on Etsy, and this is Hoya endauensis. Next up is a plant I've had a little bit of a journey with. These are Hoya blashernaezii. Now, blashernaezii is native to the Philippines, to Catanduanes Island. And it was first grown and flowered in captivity by Ted Green and published in 1999 in Fraterna by Dale Kloppenberg. And it's named after the person who led the collection team. His name was blashernaezii. This is supposed to have absolutely beautiful blossoms. I've seen pictures. They are pretty, which is why I ordered it. And it grew fairly well. I mean, we had a good bit of growth. And then it didn't do well. It has not bloomed for me yet, but it didn't do well. And I thought, the leaves are very attractive, very handsome, but it just didn't do well. And I got concerned, and rather than take the chance of it dying, I took a cutting. And I think it was probably just a couple of nodes. And the cutting did very well for me and is putting out nice leaves. It got a little dry and I had some tip dieback, but I'm fine with that. I can deal with that. And so this one was doing really well. And I thought, well, that's great. I'll have a plant that's doing all right. And then the one I was worried about pushed out a new leaf here and a new leaf here, and the new leaves look pretty darn good. Let's see if I can, they're nice and pretty. Both plants are doing fairly well. So, yeah, I'm just waiting to see what's going on with this and see how it's going to play out. They're doing all right. They're not thriving yet. This one has, let's take a look. There's a root coming through. So, okay, it's looking for food. Nothing here yet. But everybody looks happy and healthy on this one. So, yeah, it's growing plants as an experiment. These have been fun, interesting. I want blooms. I want growth and I want blooms. So, I'm going to take these two aside afterwards and have a talk with them. Daddy has expectations. But these have been cool so far. I can't say that I would recommend this plant because it hasn't been particularly easy. But by the same token, it hasn't been terribly difficult. I mean, this one bounced back from whatever was going on with it. And this one has been pretty happy since it got settled in here. So, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? These also came from Sproutique on Etsy. And this is Hoya blashernaezii. now the ones celebrating their 1-year anniversary this month. And the first up is Hoya nicholsoniae New Guinea Ghost. Now, New Guinea Ghost, well, let's start with Nicholsoniae in general. Nicholsoniae is native to New Caledonia, New Guinea, Queensland, Australia, Samoa, and the Solomon Islands. But New Guinea Ghost is native to Papua New Guinea and was found by Nathaniel Simonson growing in a clump, a regular spread of a mesa, Hoya nicholsoniae. So this is a naturally occurring sport. And the leaves are just very pretty. I mean, that's just very neat. This is my second one. The first one that came, I'm sure some of you remember the story. The first one that came, there was just something wrong with it. It looked like it had some kind of scale. And for months and months and months, it didn't do anything. And that's rare for Hoyas. Hoyas, they grow like weeds because they're weeds. So I thought, I'm going to try it. I decided that there was something wrong with the plant. And I decided then that I would try another one. And from the moment this one arrived, it has grown. It has grown very, very, very well. So much so that I deliberately sent the other one to compost. I was not going to mess with it. I got concerned, not concerned, but it's like, if there's something going on with that plant, I don't need it playing with the others and spreading whatever that is. It's like head lice in grade school. I don't need it playing with the other kids. So this one's done well. I think we had a little bit of a bout with flat mites. So it got treated because they seem to be over on this shelf. Because the shelves kind of insulate plants from each other. So yeah, everything else seems to be going okay. But we had a little outbreak there, I think. So I treated it, plus it wasn't growing, and after all the growth it had done, to suddenly not be growing, there was something going on. So I treated it, trimmed off what wasn't good, and I've got new growth up here. Don't know if it'll focus for me. There's new growth up there. There's new growth down in here. There's a growth point there. There's another growth point down here. So we're happy about that. I never really wanted it. This was the it plant for a while. Man, you couldn't get this for love or money. Well, you could, but it was going to take a lot of both. And then the price fell down. And I saw one at a reasonable price, and I thought, okay, let's see what that's about. I never really liked the pictures of the leaves I saw until it got here. And then I kind of just looked at it and went like, okay, I get it now. This is very, very pretty. Definitely understand why it was the it plant. And it's done really well. So I can recommend this one. Hasn't bloomed for me yet, but we've fixed some issues and we understand what's going on. So this came from Age of Foliage RS on Etsy, and this is Hoya nicholsoniae New Guinea Ghost. And the next one celebrating a 1-year anniversary is my Hoya lockii. Now, Hoya lockii is native to Vietnam. It was first collected in 2011 in Toi Tien Huay province. The Quang Nguyen municipality at 1,000 meters. So it grows up a little bit. You could say it's a cooler growing Hoya, but it's probably a cooler growing Hoya for Vietnam. So keep that in the back of your mind. It was first published in 2012 in Taiwania by Van Te Pham and Leonid Vladimirovich Averyanov. And I didn't have much expectations about this one. To be honest, if we're being frank here, I'll be frank and you can be whoever you want to be. But this plant has done really well. The leaves are, let's see if I can get a little bit of cooperation. The leaves are very pretty. There's a little bit of splash on them. They are definitely a thin-leafed Hoya. Some nice little undulate edges, and it has bloomed. And I've got pictures of the blooms over here. I was a little, not distressed, but it blooms on the peduncles and it blooms once. So it's not like a repeater, but it puts out peduncles at every juncture. So there's one here that's just finished up blooming, and there's 3 more in line. And it grew for me. It has grown well. It's put out a new shoot that's putting out new leaves. I don't know if that'll be able to be seen. But yeah, so there's some new leaves coming on the shoot. And there's a new shoot coming out of the base down here. So that's very cool. This has just done much better than I expected. And a couple weeks ago, I saw Miro repotting his lockii, and I kind of like panicked for a moment because Miro's tall, and his lockii was easily 5 foot, 6 foot tall. And I thought, well, that's not quite what I thought it was going to be, but here we are. It's doing really well. No issues with this one, no problems. I treated it with sulfur just to make sure that the flat mites didn't pester it at all. And it's been doing really, really well. If you've been thinking about lockii, not the character, not from Marvel or from Norse sagas, but if you've been thinking about adding it to your collection, I've got this on a stake because it seems to be one of those that's going to need it. Otherwise, it's going to go, and I need it to be vertical. Space here is at a premium, so this one definitely needs to be vertical. I'm looking over at some of my other thin leaves down here, and But this has been very cool. I'm glad I finally made the choice and ordered it. This one came from Age of... And next, a very special thank you to Tamra, who bought me a coffee. Your support for the channel is very, very much appreciated and goes toward helping to keep this all going on. So yes, Tamra, thank you very, very much. And the question for this week, it's a request. In the comments below, tell me your Hoya success story. Which Hoya has just outdone itself in your care? We all have one that's done very, very well, that's like outperformed our expectations, and it just gives us joy to have it in the collection. So yeah, tell us about that one, and we'll take a look and we'll see what we all have success with. And a sincere thanks for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Please remember to click the thumbs up like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. They're all really important to helping my channel grow. A lot of the products that you've seen me use are available through my Amazon storefront, and there's a link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can also click on the link in the description to my Buy Me a Coffee page, or there's a thanks button down here that YouTube takes care of. That's all very much appreciated. As usual, there are links to videos over here, and enjoy the rest of your week's end.